before you start going. And like with me, I got into fixing flips because I wanted to generate more income to buy more rental properties. And so that was the strategy that started me down that path. And now, after buying an apartment building and kind of getting to that point, whereas that now.
Wait, so hold on one second. So you plan to buy an apartment building or you have an apartment building?
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I hate to interrupt, but I had to tell you about a community that I'm a part of. It's called the Morning Meetup. It's where hundreds of entrepreneurs gather every single morning. Look, we share ideas, we motivate each other, we share our successes. It's the perfect environment for you to not only grow as an individual, but as an entrepreneur. It's hosted by my mentor, David Shands. It's every day, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. It's no better way to start your day. Look, we've got a book club. Imagine hundreds of entrepreneurs reading the exact same book on the exact same chapter. You get to discuss that book and share your thoughts. It's very motivating. It empowers you, and you're ready to start your day. You get all of that for only $1. After that, it goes to $79 a month. I have no doubts that you're going to want to stay and be a part of this community. Look, I'm there every single morning, 8 a.m. The only thing we're missing is you. The link is in the description. Go ahead, click the link, try it out, join the community. Look forward to seeing you in the morning.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast, where I find regular people doing extraordinary and phenomenal things in corporate America and entrepreneurship. Today, I have with me the phenomenal man, Johnny Lynum, and he goes by the military CEO. That probably tells you enough right there in that title, but I'm gonna have him introduce himself real quick.
Man, thank you for having me on here, brother, man. Honored to be here and to be here and just kind of share with your audience and just talk a little bit about myself. And then, and just some of the things, I think the principles to kind of get after success that people can kind of take away and implement and make happen. For me, man, born in Detroit, Michigan, moved down to Lower Alabama, LA, when I was about 8 years old, son of a preacher, so I'm a preacher's kid. And, have one sister and, and just kind of grew up humble beginnings, man, rural Alabama, grew up on a dirt road, playing in the woods, deer hunting and, playing high school basketball, but for me, I kind of always been kind of keen to the academic side. So I, was able to graduate academic scholarships and was blessed to go to University of Alabama, man, where I got my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. And commissioned as an officer in the Air Force. And, I've been doing that now for a little bit over 16 and a half years now, serving. And at the same time, my wife and I, we started our own real estate investing company back in 2015.
Well, that was a great introduction. You touched on a lot of the things that I want to dig into. But first and foremost, that I didn't even recognize is that you said you're the son of a preacher's kid. And that probably ties in because I was curious about the title of your podcast, and it's Filling the Storehouse, correct?
Well, no. So I was a guest appearance on Filling the Storehouse with my man Stu Granger. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in the same mastermind group with Stu, and it was on there kind of talking about just kind of the servant leadership and just just the principles behind why it is that we do what we do when it comes to serving, with teaching investing principles, and then just kind of leading out front, with the kind of a mind of a Christ, if you will, with just how we approach everything with our personal lives and even with business as well, too.
Yeah. So dig into that a little bit for me. Explain to the people what you mean by servant leadership.
Well, I think that's the thing, where is that you hear the cliche that leaders always eat last, but, it's really coming from those that are at the highest level or they serve those at the lowest level, and so that's a principle, whereas that, my mom always told me, whereas that always look out for the little guy. You never want to get to the point where you think you're better than somebody. But at the same time, even if you're a janitor, you be the best janitor that you can be. And I think that kind of, I took those principles with me, even today, with just being, serving first and, being in the military, where, service before self is one of our key principles and core competencies that, it's kind of been ingrained in me from a kid, all the way through life. And I think, just to be able to chase that feeling of helping somebody, the feeling that you feel when somebody says, hey, yep, you stepped in and I couldn't be here or I couldn't do this without your help. It's no better feeling than that feeling, just to have that conversation with somebody. You had a positive impact on them.
Yeah. So how does that help you in leadership, not only in your military sector, but also in your own business that you and your wife run?
Yeah, so it's thinking about just peeling that back, it kind of starts at the top, whereas that you take leadership, different combat situations, different organizations with different mission sets. I've been fortunate enough to have to deploy a couple times, and just to sacrifice the ops tempo, working 12-hour days for 6 months straight. So
Yeah.
when you come back and bring that to business, it's nowhere near that level. So, for me, it's like, okay, a lot of people, they get rattled, they get, stressed out. It's like, okay, nobody's shooting at us. We're all going home to eat with our family tonight. We good. I'm like, you don't have to worry about running over IED or anything like that. So it puts it in perspective for me. And so now you're able to navigate some stressful situations with negotiations, all that stuff, whereas that you can keep a sense of calm. And I think that's been the biggest translation that's come from the military and my philosophy with leadership that I've kind of brought to lead my own business now.
Yeah. So what was it like growing up as a preacher's son?
Oh man, in church a lot. In church Wednesday nights, all day on Sunday, some days, with that. But it was good. It grounded me. I mean, it made me into the man that I am today. When we start talking about servant leadership, just being, seeing the example my dad set, with being a dedicated husband and father and everything that comes with that, with leading a family, for us, it starts at home. And for
Right.
me, it's taking that principle and bringing it to the business world, where a lot of times, man, serving leadership, everybody's all about, hey, how can I get myself to the top, and regardless of who I have to step on to get there, whereas that it's a different approach, whereas that it's abundance mindset, but you're not necessarily having to undercut your peers or
Yeah.
those in other positions in order for you to be successful in life. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, when you start talking about servant leadership.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about the servant leadership aspect, and I served in the military as well. I was in the Army. Um, don't knock me for that too bad.
Oh no, man! I'm more purple than anything. I'm joint, for as I've served
Yeah, I
directly
did
with
too. I did a lot of joint
guys. So,
forces. And
we all one team.
yep, absolutely. But when you talk about servant leadership, I had the same mentality, right? So I would go into any situation, and I'm going to treat the private with the same, or airman in your case, with the same respect that I would treat a general. And it did a lot for me, and it got me a long way, because everybody always saw me as somebody who got along. And I did that because I don't care what my rank is. I'm not going to demean you. I'm not going to talk down to you. I'm going to get the job done. I'm going to be stern, but fair. And so I understand that mentality, and it's definitely taking you a long way in your business. I see how much you're doing. I see how much you're growing. And I know when you combine that, like you said, with your faith and not stepping on people, what type of things do you see your business doing that is in ministry? Because a lot of people don't realize how those can actually tie together. You don't have to be necessarily behind a pulpit to be in ministry.
Right, right. No, that's a great question, man, because I think one of the things that we separate, showing up on Sunday and, the religion aspect of what we believe. But I think, taking those principles, Monday through Saturday is where the rubber meets the road. And when
Yeah.
you really need to take that and be able to show people, because there's, across the board, real estate investing is no different. Every house that we're buying off market, is always a challenge behind it. It's some person that has a challenge in their life that's going on, whether it's probate, whether it's foreclosure because they lost their job, they can't pay their mortgage anymore.
Mhm.
Maybe they were a landlord and they had to evict their tenant. They don't have the money to make the renovations. All those type of situations that, is people that's having challenges, issues that allow you to come in and solve their problem. And I think that's one of the things, the misnomer is that, we're real estate investors, that we're taking people's houses. It's like, it's funny. It's like you can sign a great deal, but when you do it the right way, the person on the other side, the seller, is even more happier than you are. Just some of the stories of just the relief
Wow. Yeah.
being, done with the headache property, or, inherited a house a loved one lived in that they can't even walk in the house anymore. But just to have that baggage and burden off of them, they can start moving forward with their life. It's a ministry within itself, especially, when you start talking about losing loved ones and the probate side of it, that it can get real personal quick. And I think, but when you operate at the level of, being able to craft win-win situations and solutions for people, and you actually, you want to see them win and have a positive situation like that, that it always works out into his good. And I think that's the biggest thing, just with being able to touch people's lives, through those type of situations that you just kind of run across all type of, people that's hurt.
Yeah, that's a great outlook, Johnny, because a lot of people look at real estate investing as only a means to build wealth, or acquire these assets and things like that. But rarely do you hear people talk about how much they're impacting other people's lives and helping those people, out of these situations that sometimes are tough. You look at things like foreclosure that can impact somebody's life for pretty much forever, right? Even to the point where they can't rent an apartment.
Right.
It's not just home buying, but if you save somebody from going into foreclosure, you're really helping them out.
Most definitely, man. I think, if you start looking at the credit, the impact on the credit. If the house sells for less than what they owe on it, the bank can go back after them for the remaining amount. And so it's just all those type of situations that, you help people kind of navigate. And a lot of times they don't know what options they have. They don't know the different solutions that are out there to kind of give them a leg up, whereas that they don't have to just go through with foreclosure. And I think a lot of it's just the education piece. But then on the flip side, that, now, that I built my team up a little bit more. And so, I'm at the position now where is that I can start telling more people. Because for the longest, man, the military, you got, this or that going on. They want you to be a silent professional, want to keep low profile on social media and things. And so for the longest, that was the way I approached everything. It was like, okay, I don't have to wait till I retire before I can start impacting people outside the military. And so the last kind of year has been that kind of transition for me.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up too, because you're titled the military CEO. So one, I want to understand, how did you get into real estate, and then I kind of want to talk about how you balance that with the military, because it's not always easy being in the military just by itself, let alone running a company.
Right, man. Most definitely. Most definitely. I think for me, I got into it from using my VA loan. So using that VA benefit that I had, my first property, I kind of highlighted in my book, just my story, whereas that, coming out of college, had no clue about credit, didn't know anything about the stock market, real estate, or any of that, the financial literacy, any of those peers to build a wealth that, that you need in order to be successful from a financial standpoint. And for me, the most humbling thing was I had to have a family member to sign on my lease for my first apartment. Here I am going my first job and can't even get an apartment by myself because I didn't have the financial knowledge. And so for me, that next year I got my credit up, was paying my credit card on time and all that stuff after I kind of got there. But then an opportunity came up where a good friend of mine found a duplex. And he's like, man, I'm gonna buy one side. You need to get this other side. And it was like $300 cheaper than my rent. And, I actually got paid money at closing with my VA loan because I didn't have to put any money down. And so, from there, that just, my antennas went up like, okay, how can I do this over and over again? And, from there, just PCS and moving to different locations and just seeking out foreclosures and, buying them using my VA loan until that maxed out. And then by that point, we had just started buying rentals and had started doing the fix and flips. And then it just kind of, took off. And, the catalyst for us was Hurricane Michael. Once it hit in October 2018, the Panama City, Florida area.
Okay.
And like overnight, we had thousands of dilapidated houses that hit the market overnight. And, over those few years leading up to that, we have been doing onesie, twosie, fix and flips. And, ever since that point, we put a team together and have been executing ever since.
Yeah. So what type of advice would you have for somebody just getting in, somebody young, not in age, but young in experience, just getting into real estate or looking at wanting to invest and overcoming some of the the self-delimiting thoughts and things they may have. And the reason I bring that up is because while I was in the military, I had a first sergeant who had multiple properties. I want to say he had about 8 or 9 properties. And he was telling me that he would, every time he PCS, he would purchase another home and he would rent it out. Well, at that time, I was young. I was spending my paycheck as soon as I got it, things like that. So I was afraid to invest, even though I did have, benefits that I could have utilized, but I was still afraid to step out. And it seemed like, a big hurdle. A lot of people in my family don't have these type of assets. So for me, it was new. So somebody in a situation like I was in, what type of advice would you give them so they could break out of that mold?
No, that's a great question, because a lot of people, they start with the position of don't have the knowledge or they don't have a lot of finances they can dedicate to investing initially. And so that's the piece that I always, I start off with, you got to own your primary residence. Before you start investing in real estate, you need to own your primary residence, for the simple fact that instead of paying rent to a landlord every month, now you'll be paying down your own mortgage. You're going to get the tax breaks, the incentives that come with home ownership. And you can get into a house. If you're a veteran, you can get into a house, no money down. They just they just got rid of the limit. So there's no limit on the purchase price that you can buy with your VA loan. The second opportunity, if you're just a normal, regular civilian, you hadn't served, you got the FHA loan, 3.5% down. And so those two products alone, and oh, by the way, you can buy all the way up to a 4 unit with those residential products. So, that's the way that I encourage a lot of people to get started, by owning their own residence. If you can, get a duplex, triplex, or quadplex that you can get with the FHA or VA loan. From there, you can move in. And if you're single, no kids, live in there a year, and then you can move out and do it again and find another one. And just kind of go through that process before you start going. And like with me, I got into fixing flips because I wanted to generate more income to buy more rental properties. And so that was the strategy that started me down that path. And now, after buying an apartment building and kind of getting to that point, where is that now?
Wait, so hold on 1 second. So you plan to buy an apartment building, or you have an apartment building?
Yeah, we have one. We picked up one back in June of 2020.
And you was able to do that based off of raising capital, you're saying, from your fix and flips, and then have more liquid assets, right? That you can then go and purchase something larger.
Correct. And on that specific apartment deal, we had to bring to the table $210,000, and so of that down payment, I ended up raising $95,000. So I didn't have to. My bank told me, like, hey, as long as you put at least 5% down, you can raise the rest. And so what I ended up doing, I raised $95,000. That essentially was just a second position loan for 2 years, excuse me. And so we're right now in the process of refinancing the apartment. We made all the renovations. We've executed the business plan. We're at 100% occupancy. And so now we've raised the income that the apartment's generating. We've lowered the expenses. And now we're going to go refinance at the bank. I'm going to pay off the 95K investors. And we've been paying them 7% return on that money each year for the last year and a half. And so now we're going to pay them off. And I'm going to keep owning the asset into the future and the cash flow that comes with it. And, and that one was it was a blessing, to find that 18 unit deal. It was on the MLS, but, it was just the right opportunity. And just moved into it.
So how did you get to the point of raising the money? Because I hear about, different things when people are trying to raise money. They either do like some type of syndication, or they have accredited investors. And so which kind of route did you go about for getting your apartment complex?
Yeah, so I had started raising money on the single family side for my fix and flip business, was doing promissory notes. And so I would raise capital for like individual projects. And so from that perspective, I was kind of knowing about that side of it, but I didn't know about apartments. And the thing about it, before I put that offer in to buy it, I had went to a seminar that was teaching multifamily principles, and it opened my eyes. And I was like, wow, I'm not that far off from buying an apartment building. And so like 45 days later is when I put in our letter of intent to buy it and purchase it. And so at that conference, I had talked to an attorney that had wrote a book. I got her book and was just going through. And she was like, hey, you don't have to do a traditional syndication. one alternate way is to just raise a second position loan or a second position debt that they'll be behind the bank's mortgage. And so I was like, okay, cool. And you keep the equity. I'm like, that sounds good to me, because I knew I wanted to keep the asset long term. I didn't want to do a syndication and then eventually sell in 3 to 5 years. And so I went through there. I found some lenders that were, wanted short-term deals, because most apartment syndications last for between 3 to 5, and some can go out to 7 years. So it's a long-term hold. But, I found some people that were interested in doing a 2-year loan and kind of roll with it. And one of the things that, and I tell people, one of the ways to level up in real estate and get there faster is by, joint ventures and by partnering up with the right people. And so what I ended up doing, I brought a partner on. Instead of me having 100% equity, I gave him 18% of the equity to raise $75,000. So I gave him 18% ownership. He raised $75,000. And then I had a college buddy of mine. He came in with $20,000, and I gave him 5% ownership of the apartment complex too. And and it worked out well.
Explain to us what a joint venture is, or JV.
Yeah, so a joint venture is just simply like you own your own house, your own property, but now say instead of you owning it 100%, now you and 2 other individuals own it 33% each. And so that's all a joint venture is. And usually you use that model on a commercial property. So whether it's a retail space or if it's more than 4 units, it would be considered a commercial loan. And so you just set up an LLC in the operating agreement. You have 3 owners that are, own the shares to the company, and you lay out the procedures on how you're going to operate the business. Hey, when these different milestones happen in the business plan, how would things happen with refinance? How do we make decisions? If it's does one person have 1% more than everybody else so they can make the final decision if it's a tie or any of those type of things? You just kind of lay that out in the paperwork that your lawyer draws up, and you execute. And now, you instead of you buying a 10-unit apartment, 3 of you buy it. And now instead of you having all the risk of ownership, now you got a third of the risk. And now, for as you bring in all the down payment, now you got a third of the down payment that you have to bring. And, and so from that perspective, if you had all the money to put it down on one property, why not put it in one in Atlanta, a third there, put a third in Orlando, and then put a third in Charlotte. Now your real estate portfolio is diversified, and, your risk is diversified. If something happened to one property, you're not going to lose all your income.
Wow. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So something that you just mentioned was that you were first doing single family homes, and then you found out about the multifamilies and even apartments and investing in those during a seminar. And we actually met in Atlanta during a seminar, right?
Yep.
So somebody as knowledgeable as yourself, somebody as successful as yourself, you still see value in going to seminars. And so why is that?
Man, professional development, just the professional development side, just the networking side of it, man. Just me and you. If I hadn't came down for that event in Atlanta, we wouldn't have never, it's highly likely we would have never met. So that's the thing for me, is the networking, meeting other people that's operating, in the same space that I'm interested in, with entrepreneurship, real estate investing, or just, business owners in general. Whereas that now you continue to stay abreast of what's new in the space when it comes to marketing, different trends. What are the movers and shakers doing at their level? What are other people doing that you're networking with? What are they doing in their market? Mm-hmm. And just from there, you're just continuing to grow. And I think that's the thing that, drives me. Whereas that now just being able to invest in professional development, because it's a game changer, because it accelerates your journey so much. By being able to get information that you can take back and implement immediately, that is a game changer versus you just going on YouTube, trying to find it, reading a book and trying to find it out, versus having, talking to people that's implementing and making those connections and partnerships that can just accelerate your journey, whatever it is that you're choosing to do.
Yeah. I oftentimes see, having a mentor or something like that as a shortcut, right? They've already been through the roadblocks and the hurdles, and they can give it to you a whole lot faster than you, like you said, trying to go to YouTube and research all this different stuff. to me, it's valuable. I'm going to spend a little extra money and I'm going to network at these seminars, get in touch with people who are either where I want to be or on the same path to where I want to be so that way I'm surrounded by the right people.
That's it, man. And your network is your net worth. And that's one of the things where I started coaching this year. And man, I had one of my students got his first property in 10 days of the program, just taking action and doing, and just putting it into work. And it's like, I look back on when I did my first deal by myself.
Yeah.
I had a project management background, so I knew how to put the team together and kind of manage and everything. But he's got me on tap. We get together on a weekly Q&A, and I'm going through and giving him all the game and helping him navigate the project. And it's like, man, you can't go wrong because the great thing about having a coach that's been there and where you're going, and they're still in the game doing it, that it allows you to avoid all the pitfalls, all the mines in the road, and all the potholes, and you can just accelerate and get there so much quicker. And I think that's the thing that people, like you said, when it comes to coaching and mentorship,
that's one heck of a success story, because you definitely helped him avoid some landmines by getting his first property within 10 days. I need to know more about your mentorship program, because that's awesome.
Yeah, man, most definitely. And, so I have an 8-week coaching program, and that's one of the things. I hired 3 people in my business, whereas that I could take a step back and now kind of more focus on, being able to give back to more people, to start coaching and, and just sharing the successes that we put in place, my find, fix, finish framework that I put together around real estate that I kind of took from the military, but brought that into the real estate investing piece. We're being able to find deals in order to fix them and then finish out and execute the disposition strategy on whether we're going to keep it as a rental or we're going to sell it and flip it. Just kind of go through that process, but packaging it up and helping people. Because like with my book that I wrote last year, man, they don't teach us this stuff in school, and so that's the biggest thing.
No, not at all.
People can't go out here and get this information, and it's sad when you look at one of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. One of the 5 basic needs is shelter. And you go through all this schooling and they don't once teach you how to go buy your own house, how to go understand that process.
Yeah.
And everybody that graduates and leaves, everybody has to live somewhere, but they don't even bring that up at all. But we got to learn about, the first president and all this and just, geometry and things that you'll never use, in your life.
So in your mentorship program, is it strictly about fix and flips, or is it also including and investing in multifamilies and other things like that too?
Yep, it's all encompassing, whether the wholesaler side, because I teach you how to find off market deals, but how to lead renovation projects.
Also wholesaling too.
Yeah. So I talk about wholesaling because it's all about commanding the deal. Because in this market, if you can find a deal, you'll find investors. And like my student that found that deal, I brought all the money to the deal. So I financed the deal and came in as a 50-50 partner. And then he's boots on the ground in Birmingham, Alabama, managing it. And I'm teaching him how to manage it. And, I make the interest payments to our lender. And, I think we got about 7 days left before we finish up, and we're going to list it on the market. So just kind of going through that process. And, with all my students, we have a weekly Q&A where I answer questions. They submit their homework, they go through and, and I hold them accountable and help them develop their own marketing plan. And just now it's just a matter of execution and then being able to have, the right relationships where they don't have to worry about the financing, whereas that they can come through and kind of get their first deal done without having to go through and understand, hey, I don't have enough credit or I don't have enough cash in order to fund the deal in order to get it done. So
you're in the DMV area, correct?
Yep. Out in Loudoun County, outside DC.
Okay. So, but you did this deal in Alabama. And so you're doing deals outside of your area, your current state. What other areas are you doing investments in?
Yeah. So my primary market is Panama City, Florida. So we moved to the DMV back in November of 20. And so we got 11 projects last year in 2021, and they were all virtual. They were all virtual deals. I have an acquisition manager there in Florida that's a realtor, and I have my primary contractor crew that's running deals there. And we got a couple of properties under contract right now in St. Louis too, that we got from a wholesaler that was
Okay.
bringing deals. And so now it's just really, man, being able to take the process and the system that I have and just show people that you can execute this stuff virtually if you build the team up right and you know what you're doing and know what to look out for.
All right. So you're teaching your students also how to protect themselves, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's your number one goal as an investor, whether it's real estate, stocks, bonds, or whatever it is to manage risk. And so as an investor, your number one job is to manage risk, especially when you're dealing with your own money. You want to manage that risk and lower that as much as possible.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about how you're managing it by being the military CEO. How are you managing it with such a demanding career?
Yeah, man, it gets tough, because I'm married, got 3 beautiful kids and, so work during the day.
Awesome.
And so for me, I started with systems for day one. I had to have the systems in place because I knew my time wasn't my own. And so from there, it's just a matter of hiring quality people that's professionals that know what they're doing. You don't have to know everything starting off.
Yeah.
You already know in the military, you may have a brand new lieutenant coming in there. And, from day one, you're in charge of, the sergeant major. That's an E9 from
Yeah.
a rank perspective. But that E9, that sergeant major got 30 years and you got 6 months of experience.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, just knowing that, hey, I'm in charge. This is my project, but I'm not the professional here. And I'm hiring the right people that have the right skill set in order to make the improvements to the property so it'll sell for X amount. And so that's the thing with me is like, having the right system in place,
Mhm.
hiring the right team members. And so now while I'm working, my team is executing, whether it's my VA that I have in the Philippines that's doing my own lead generation. He gets something he gets somebody motivated to sell. He sends that lead directly to my acquisition manager. She calls them, sets an appointment, walks the property, and gives them the offer based off the renovations. And then, we turn it over to the contractor team and they get the work done. And, I kind of sit back, manage. I talk with them, or my wife does during the day. She's the glue during the week for us paying for things at Home Depot, paying the utilities, working with inspectors and all that stuff. So it's a lot of people orchestrating, moving behind the scenes, to make me look successful, with executing the business.
So, man, you definitely, like you said, you got that project management piece down. I can see you apply a lot of those skill sets. So do you see this going long term with managing both, or do you see a transition, coming soon?
Probably not soon enough. I got about 3.5 years left before retirement.
You don't want to blow the retirement. You're too close.
Yeah, it's right around the corner, and we're in a great situation. Whereas that, we're probably not going to have to move again before that time is up. We'll be here in this area, which is great.
Okay.
For us, the kids, having 4 years since in one school, we may stay here long term, and then that way they kind of go into high school. My oldest going to high school all 4 years, because with military, as you get more senior, you're at the needs of the military. And so you could be moving around every 2-3 years. And that's just hard on the family, picking kids up and moving them across the country, away from their friends and then away from family. And, I think all the sacrifice they made up until this point, it makes sense to just, say, hey, 20 years of service is great. And then just kind of transition to, doing this more, picking up the coaching side of it to help more people, kind of build wealth and be the best CEO of their last name.
Yeah, but that's a great plan and strategy, because to have those benefits and then that retirement income as a second, another source. Basically, we talk about the 7 streams of income, and that's a solid one to have right there. Is that that good retirement income? So you said you have 3 children. Are they boys, girls?
Yeah, so my oldest is a boy, 8, he'll be 9 here in March. My daughter is the middle child, so she's 6. And then my youngest son, Jace, he's 3. And so that's my 3-headed monster. All
right, so aside from the 3-year-old, but the 2 older ones, how do they take with the business? Are they participating? Are they learning a lot?
Oh yeah. When we were boots on the ground in Panama City, we were everybody in the house. We would be in the houses. You'll see them on like the old videos running around.
Yeah.
So they love that piece of it. Even now, being detached from it. They're down in the office with me. You'll see them running around on Instagram videos or something that I posted there in the office. They're understanding, the process of owning, real estate and passive income. And so, it's just always a teaching moment with them. And so now they kind of see it. And so that's how, I looked and build that legacy for them and my grandkids. It's like, okay, this is how it's going. Because one of the things that, that I found, with writing my book last year is that 88% of millionaires are first generation. They didn't inherit a large sum of wealth.
Yeah.
So which tells me that all the previous millionaires that their wealth got lost somewhere. If 88% had to build it their first generation, then the other generation before them, it got lost. And so that's one of the things that, I want to make sure is that my legacy is when I hand it down to them, that they have the knowledge and the skill set to preserve it, and whereas it continues to keep rolling over long term.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's going to stick with them because they're being surrounded by it. They're soaking it in. They're seeing it so much the same way you being raised by a preacher and being a preacher's son, right? That word gets in you, whether you try to rebel or deflect or anything like that, right? Because, the Bible says you raise a child the way he should go, he won't depart from it. So, regardless of what you want, those kids are watching you. They're being exposed to so much with, the investment side and the wealth building side, and running a business. It's definitely soaking into them. So you're gonna have some awesome kids and great generations to come.
Yeah, man, it's definitely a blessing, just to see the journey and the process, and that's the biggest thing is just a lot of times you can get kind of lost in the sauce with chasing success. I see it in the military where people they chasing rank. They're trying to chase the next promotion, the next job, and then they get to the end and then they lose their family. Or their family don't know who they are. And so I always said that I didn't want to be that guy where it's that I'm all in on the business, but I lose my family behind it, or the people that I care about, my friends, and still being able to kind of lead the life and be able to be relevant to those that I care about. And so I think that's the biggest thing that people they have to realize with success is that you define it. You define your success, and you can't let other people's success definition of success impact you or make you feel, greater than what you are or lesser than what you are, because of what they want for you. So, if you want to run a nonprofit, or if we're in a circle with a lot of entrepreneurs, but I don't shame people that want to work a 9 to 5. That's cool. If you love what you're doing, you're helping people, you're energized by your job, then by all means you should keep your job.
Yeah.
But you should be an investor, and you should be creating multiple streams of income as well, as you're going through. But I think, that's one of the biggest things that people need to understand, that whatever their dreams, passions are, you define your success, figure out what it is, and then now live on purpose in order to go out and achieve it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad you talk about defining your own success and in your own terms, because so often we're blinded by the shiny things and the glitz and the glamour, that especially what's going on, so much right now with social media. But you can be successful in so many different aspects in different ways. And you prove that day in and day out by being in the military. Like I said, one of the most demanding and challenging careers there are. And you're still a very successful investor and CEO and coach and trainer and all this other stuff. But you're able to manage and balance all of that. So people out there can definitely accomplish it too.
Most definitely, and none of us are any smarter than anybody else. A lot of times, from just talking to other successful people, they just got better information. They got information that we didn't have. And so that's one of the things that my job is. It was like, now, how do I get the information out to people, and the ones that serious, that actually want to take it to heart and implement, and give them everything they need to do to be successful, and just kind of, and just share the journey, because it's not always roses, and unicorns, and you have your challenging days where you may have to put in 12, 14 hours. You get off work and you got to work 6 more hours.
Yeah.
And, so it comes with sacrifices. But when you understand that, hey, building generational wealth, and you're doing it for, those kids running around playing, that it gives you everything that you need in order to kind of grind through those tough moments and then reap the benefits on the back end.
Yeah. Well, this is Success Leaves Clues podcast. So I got a thing I like to do. I like to point out a couple of clues throughout that I got from our conversation, and then I'm quite sure the audience will pick up on a lot more than that. But one thing I caught right off the bat early is your faith and your connection with the Lord, and I know that fuels you and helps strengthen your family. So that's a major clue. Another thing that you talk about is mentorship and investing in yourself by taking, courses, seminars, and different things like that. And not only do you take them, but you offer this training, you offer mentorship back. So it's not that you just talk about it, it's something that you're actively doing as well. And then the third thing you mentioned that's also major is family and defining success. Because I think a lot of times we can get caught up in, the race and trying to reach a level of success based off of somebody else's, perception or, the way they've defined it, and not really being true to ourselves. Because believe it or not, everybody may not want to be a millionaire, especially once you get on that journey to it and you start realizing, it's a lot of work. So you can be just as successful, with a lesser income and still live a happy life. So those are just a few things that I've noticed, and I'm quite sure everybody watching and listening will point out, a lot of other things.
No, man, I agree. You hit the nail right on the head, man. That's those are the most important things, and I think is just take action. The only thing that separated me and got me to where I'm at is just taking action and betting on myself, and and not taking no or failure as an option.
Absolutely. So on that note, I want to remind everybody out there, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Until next time on Success Leaves Clues podcast.